Here's why the Dallas Mavericks are the NBA's biggest dark horse team. In 10 games since not being named an All-Star, Luka's been on an absolute mission, averaging an NBA best 35.4 points to go along with 10 dimes and 10 boards per game. Having dropped 3 45-plus point games in February, the message delivered from the Slovenian sensation is bleak. He's a force to be reckoned with, being almost impossible to clamp up. Everyone forgets about the NCAA champion with Villanova in the breakout Jalen Brunson, who's been on an absolute tear as well, shooting 52% from the field and 49% from three, while averaging 19 points over his last 10 outings. Coincidentally, both of those noteworthy hot streaks began directly after Kristaps Porzingis got traded. So what's the biggest value the newly acquired Spencer Dinwiddie provides to the Mavs, and which five-man unit has allowed Jason Kidd's team to post the NBA's third best winning percentage in the calendar year? Stay tuned for all that and more. Right quick, only 12.2% of you watching right now are subscribed, so if you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also leave a thumbs up, it takes a few seconds and makes a massive difference. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DFlowHoops, and I'll follow you back. Link is in the description for those two platforms. A breakdown on how the loss of Porzingis is impacting Dallas, the breakout Jalen Brunson, along with a mini film room on Luka, is all on the way for you. Before we get to that though, I thought we'd start with a number that will really get you going if you're a Luka Doncic or Dallas Mavericks fan. According to NBA.com, since the beginning of 2022, the five-man unit of Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Dwight Powell has the highest net rating of any lineup in the league with a minimum of 50 minutes played at plus 32.3. Those five have been on the floor for 100 minutes together, compiling a ridiculous 135.4 offensive rating and a defensive rating that would also lead all 30 teams in the association at 103. Further proving the unit's dominance, you have to go to lineups with 27 or fewer minutes played to find lineups better than this Mavs one. If Reggie gets back to full health come the postseason, Doncic, Brunson, Finney-Smith, Reggie, and Dwight will be a bit of a problem to hold down. Offensively, they're all capable of spacing the floor with a jump shot, and on the other side of the court, they can switch positions 1 through 5 when guarding pick-and-roll scenarios. So there's more than enough foot speed and general versatility on both ends to make the Big D's NBA best lineup in 2022 a formidable combination of players. Thing is, the only problem with not only this unit, but the Maverick offense in general, is the lack of individual shot creation other than the Slovenian sensation. Luka's already running the 9th highest usage rate in NBA history this year at 37.1, which includes an eye-popping 47.3% usage rate since the Porzingis trade. Next to an undeniable top 5 NBA player in Luka Doncic, it's been the criminally underrated Jalen Brunson who stepped up. The former Nova Wildcat hasn't gotten nearly enough respect from NBA YouTube analysts or the mainstream sports media, but the shifty guard has quietly developed into the Mavericks' second most valuable scoring weapon. Steady progression has seen Brunson take his scoring from 8.3 in his sophomore year to 12.6 in year 3, and now as a fourth-year pro at age 25, Jalen's averaging 16.3 points, and also a career high by far, 5.4 assists per game. While the 6'1", 190-pound Bulldog can blow past defenders with a quick first step, get to his spot off the bounce, and craftily drop home pull-up jumpers from 15 to 25 feet, bottom line is, Doncic needed a bit more help creating shots from nothing, because his aforementioned usage rate isn't close to being sustainable. Good on the front office for realizing they needed more, I'll touch on that in a second, but the record for usage rate for a single season is 41.7% by Russell Westbrook in his MVP year. James Harden's the only other person to have a usage rate above 40%, and that was in 2018-19. Those two, of course, had special, must-see individual campaigns, just like Luka's having in 2021-22. However, we saw how it ended for Westbrook and Harden's teams in those years. Both were eliminated before the conference finals. Luckily, to shore up the Mavs' lack of perimeter shot creation, outside of Doncic and Brunson, of course, the organization made a bold, brash, and criticized, yet very solid deadline deal. Quickly flashing back to when the Mavs acquired Porzingis just over 3 years ago on February 4th of 2019, the Mavericks billionaire owner Mark Cuban stated it was his goal to keep the Luka and Kristaps duo in Dallas for the next 20 years. However, 2022's deadline-beating deal of Porzingis to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans barely made it 3 years of the European tandem being teammates. When healthy and motivated, Porzingis was decent in Dallas, but his catch-and-shoot perimeter game was very inconsistent. He was unable to initiate offense off the dribble, of course, or without a playmaking pass. Dinwiddie's only suited up in the last 2 games for Dallas before the All-Star break, playing at least 23 minutes in both games. As he finds his flow in Jason Kidd and Luka's system, expect the 6'6" point guard and former Brooklyn Net and Washington Wizard in Dinwiddie to ease the offense manufacturing pressure off both Doncic and Brunson. But it's definitely no coincidence that since the Mavericks haven't been forced to give Kristaps his 15 shots per game since he got hurt and subsequently traded, the offense has flowed much better. The stretch big KP's last game in Dallas came on January 29th against the Indiana Pacers. The Mavericks have played 9 games since then. They played 50 games before that. Of those 50 games, Jalen Brunson played 49. In those 49 games, Brunson averaged 15.7 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 5.6 assists on 50.1% shooting from the field and 34% shooting from deep. He only took 2.9 3-point attempts per game. He did all of that in 31.3 minutes per night with a plus 2.4 plus minus. Minus Porzingis, Brunson's upped his minutes to 36.1 per night, averaging 19.1 points, 4 boards, and 4.2 dimes. He shot 51.2% from the field and 48.7% from 3, and taken 4.3 triples per game. His plus minus has nearly doubled to plus 4.6. Speaking of shocking production, I briefly mentioned this bit of history in the upload featuring Luka, which I left a link in the description to. Go watch that video after this. But in February, of course without Porzingis, Luka's become the 4th player in NBA history next to Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Walt Bellamy with multiple 45-point, 15-rebound, 5-assist games in a calendar month. But the reason you really have to appreciate witnessing what Luka's doing right now is because this hasn't been done since January of 1966 when Wilt Chamberlain did it. I describe Luka as a player who's become too crafty for the rest of the world to guard. While Doncic once said it was easier for him to score in the NBA than it was in the EuroLeague, he was a teenager when he played overseas, and I have no doubt that this 23-year-old version of him would be averaging 50 points per game in Europe. In a recent 51 piece against the LA Clippers, a team he's absolutely torched in the playoffs for 2 straight years, this February 10th outing against the Clippers on your screen saw Tyronn Lue confusingly play switch defense, allowing Luka to expose Zubats off the dribble early and often. Right here though, the Mavs make an adjustment to the Clippers' switch defense as Brunson sets an on-ball for Doncic in an attempt to get Kennard switched onto the Slovenian. To the Mavs' surprise, Kennard only hedges after Batum fights through the screen this time and gets back to Luka. But displaying the once-in-a-lifetime greatness we're witnessing, not fazed in the slightest bit by LA changing their defensive game plan, Doncic doesn't let Batum get back in time and just calmly pulls up from around the logo. That's nasty range right there and fundamentally sound off-the-dribble shooting mechanics. How would you best describe Luka Doncic? Best answer down below in the comments gets next video shoutout. Top 5 commenters with the most shoutouts by March 21st receive free NBA merchandise of their choosing this spring. So leave your take on today's question. Today's Speaks winner is Devin Sedodal, who says, I think Chicago's most important player outside of their 2 big stars would have to be the biggest big man in the middle. Big Vooch has really been balling this year. Although he may have taken a step back from his last few years, this was expected with all of the new acquisitions that the Bulls acquired. Appreciate every answer. I hope you have a great one. D-Flow signing off.